Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. Yes, you can trust that day, that Monday, that crazy day of the week that gets us started. Hopefully you got off to a great start, right? This is a kind of an extra special edition here just because my guest is today. Kris Hall, KDH Adventures on Instagram, and had a kind of a one-on-one actually. So anyway, we'll get to that in just a moment, but I got to go through the regular stuff. But I will. What do I want to say? Yeah, okay. Well, I got to start here. I got to say, thanks to Blue Water Power Group of companies, great giver backers, give back supporters of the community is what I want to say, right? And Joe's Discount Tire, of course, getting ready. Snow's coming. Get those tires. And our friends, AskGuy.ca, 11 years. Wow, supporting us. Thank you so much, Key, for that. Find out more about signs and car wraps and big jobs and little smalls and everything you need for signage of some sort. Go to AskGuy.ca. Now, I do want to go do something I haven't done in a while. Somebody said, you don't do dad jokes anymore, David. And I'm like, well, okay. Why did the octopus beat the shark in a fight? Because it was well armed. I need a sound effect for that, right? Even what's her name over? Alexa, tell me a dad joke.
Why was the man at the cookout so happy? He met the girl of his dreams.
Wow. But I'll bump. Okay. Wow. I guess that's why we don't regularly do dad jokes here. Boy, a busy weekend for the Sarnia Sting. I got to say, it's been a rough little while for them. So here we go. This past Friday, Flint Firebirds come into town. Seemed like they were doing well, but the Flint Firebirds come out on top. Final score there, 6-5. And then the Sting would go down to Flint the next day. 4 goals in like the first 6-7 minutes of the game, which was amazing. And they would win that one 6-3. Then come back yesterday, Sunday, against Peterborough Petes, and just really seemed to have a struggle out there on the ice. And final score there, unfortunately, 4-1. But it was Christmas at the Hive with the ugly sweaters, and in support of the Inn of the Good Shepherd. Main Street Credit Union was there, and there was lots of people there, and it was great support. And then they auctioned off the Sting ugly jerseys, which they were actually really awesome jerseys, but they had the auction after the game at the Hive. So there's no post-game press conference. But if you want to find out more about the Sarnia Sting, there's their website online, and you can find out all the scores and everything there during the game, and purchase your tickets online and shop online, etc. So we'll be back there Wednesday. The Erie Otters coming into town to do the final home game, I guess I could say, for the season. All right. Well, one more time, we've mentioned it before, coming up Saturday, December the 17th at the Progressive Auto Sales Arena, a 2-part thing. This is put on by Tourism Sarnia Lambton and Ontario's Blue Coast. During the day from noon to 4, free admission. And then this is craft beer, local wine, cider and mead. There's going to be food sampling and games. And then in the evening, a $30 ticket will you see Rumblefish and Dwayne Gretzky. So get your tickets at cheerstothecoast.com, and sounds like a whole lot of fun. I'm really sad that I'm going to be out of town, not able to go, but sounds like a lot of fun. Festival of Cheers, it's called, the craft beer and wine show. All right. Well, I didn't want to waste any time getting to this. It's a longer than normal interview, but it's one that, and we could have went on for hours. I've been able to build a nice friendship with my friend Kris Hall from KDH Adventures, and he has been traveling the world on his motorcycle. But it's not just a motorcycle trip. There's so much more to that, and there's so much more to Kris Hall that you can learn about here in this interview. Pay attention real close, watch the whole thing, and then I'll be back to wrap things up. Here's my friend Kris Hall. We're nice and comfy, cozy here in our living room here.
Yeah, very nice. Everything looks nice and Christmassy.
And our friend Kris Hall, who's recently returned from the journey, I guess is what we would call it. Welcome home, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good to see you again.
The last time we saw you, we were give a shout out to Skyview Restaurant.
Yeah.
We had nice breakfast there, and
yeah, it's my go-to place.
Yeah, then you were gone.
Yeah, we tried to connect on the road, but internet and certain things. And I remember once saying, okay, I've got to be at a certain place with good internet at 3:00. And
it didn't work out.
As I was moving closer to Turkey and the internet was getting worse and worse, it was just hard. So here we are, and I'm looking.
Now let's talk about Turkey there for a moment, because I know as we were messaging all the time there that you really liked Turkey.
I did, and as my adventure moves to places, you don't see things like Lambton County. There's a risk to it, right?
Yeah,
and I knew that. So I knew, like, leaving Poland and getting into the Balkans, that things were going to change, right? And I listened to some people in Bulgaria that said and warned me about Turkey, but to be honest, it was amazing. And I know I use that word a lot, but the people were some of the most genuine people I ever met.
Yeah.
And some of the men, when they would say goodbye, would hold their heart, and they couldn't do enough for you, And just to see the culture from 2,000 years ago, the caves, and I wasn't in tourist areas, so I was in caves that, aren't maintained by, say, the government to show people, right? So I got down 50 meters in some caves with bats, not alone. I met a guy who I stayed in Mustafa Pasha for 1 week, and you get to know everyone in town a little bit, right? So it was really interesting to see, rock doors this high that slide across the tunnels. That's how they shut their doors, and just to see what life was like many years ago, and to see how the land eroded over centuries, and again to see a different world that we just don't live in.
What about? I noticed you mentioned food in Turkey.
The food was incredible.
Did you put on a few pounds while you were in Turkey?
I haven't checked. I know I feel softer. That's
right.
That's from being off the bike a week for sure at one point.
Yeah.
2, definitely indulging in good food, which I refuse to not, for whatever reason, right? And 3, when I stayed at that cave hotel, there was somewhat of a party every night. I'm not much of a drinker, but people want to buy you a drink.
They talked you into it, did they?
And so I probably drank more and probably ate more than normal. So I'm feeling pretty soft. And then you come home, this happens every time, and everywhere you go, people want to buy something and have a drink. But everything's fine, and as long as my gear fits when I go back, I feel good. And it was, as I'm moving south and seeing different places, the rewards have been really unbelievable.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'd like to sort of jump ahead, and then we'll go back again.
Sure.
Like you just came home, and you had your coffee with Mom and Dad, and you mentioned that you really missed them. But talk about on the airplane there. You mentioned you saw a lot of people from Ukraine coming to Canada.
I have everywhere I've been, including Iceland. I've run into people from Ukraine, and it's become very interesting for me to see and meet these people, right? And to learn that they have problems. We don't. You have something small happen, and I think we talked about that story before in Iceland. I had a bunch of problems that day, and I happened to stop in a spot where they were having a buffet for Ukrainian people, and I met a bunch of people. And I looked around the room that day, and I was having multiple issues with small things, and I thought they're really small, right?
Right.
But yes, I met a crew of people on the airplane, and I went to Ukraine. I was in Ukraine for one morning. I crossed the border. I met a soldier who said, it's okay, just don't go past the city limits. So I went in and had a small picnic by myself just to feel it, because I've met so many people along the way. And so on the airplane, I met a family, and this boy was very petrified of flying. He was sitting beside me. His family was at the front. And he was enthusiastic and asking questions and about flying, every little movement in the airplane, and I don't even have a cell phone, and then I met the people behind, and one guy didn't even know where he was going to stay that night, and I told him if I had a house and I lived close,
I would have welcomed you.
I would have definitely had you back. But these people, the weather wasn't very good coming in, and it was like if there's a heaven, that's what heaven I think looks like, is when you're landing in an airplane and the puffy clouds and the sun is setting, and it was amazing. It really was. And the airplane turned, and can you imagine being those people? This boy, he was 16, so he's becoming a man soon, and I told him it's going to get dark in the clouds. It might get rough. And he's asking if it's okay. And when we went through the clouds and it opened up to Toronto, that's going to be his life. Now he's left everything behind. And I try and imagine it, but can you imagine?
No.
Like, you know?
No.
And
we're pretty comfortable here in what we
comfortable.
do. And,
Yeah.
you know, just to be able to sit where we are today.
Yeah.
And
Heat's going.
And to go to a nice restaurant for breakfast or lunch.
Oh, yeah,
and,
for sure.
Yeah. So this is, there's been a lot of eye openers on this journey then.
For sure. Like even recently seeing the use of something as simple as an apple tree. I spent some time in Slovakia with this Christina that I met in 2019 and her family, and to see how they utilize everything from the land. You know, from simple apples to pears to the garden to the chickens. You know, I saw like her nana would come down and I'd be in the farmyard gathering apples with her, and she would talk to the chickens, and in their language she would be saying, it's going to be okay, you know the routine, and I'm sorry I have to do this, but it's a way of life, you know, like if there's a circle of life, you know.
Right.
I mean, you could say it's cruel, but everybody I'm sure that's listening has had chicken before, and obviously they're, you know. So I watched her grandma, you know, chopping off the heads of the chickens, and her Nana, sorry, and then the older ladies that were 80, I sat with them and plucked chickens, and I asked the one lady if I could feel her hands, because these are hands that have worked for, 70 years out of her 80 years alive.
Right.
So just to see the harvest of apples and pears and walnuts, and to see how important it is, to see a family on the side of the road and a tree's fallen over, and they're getting all the branches to take home, because just even heating the house and keeping the oven going, to make tea.
They're not running down to the grocery store.
No, and it's not like that everywhere, but I try not to go to the city, right?
Yeah.
Of course, the cities, the truth is, they're not that much different than ours,
Yeah.
They are, but they aren't in a way. I know,
Yeah.
I'm contradicting myself, but yes, just to see families gathering wood. Winter's coming, right? So we are animals in a way.
Yeah,
right. So to see the harvest,
preparing for the hibernation.
yeah, to see the gathering of wood and preparing for winter, and nothing is wasted. That's something I'm glad I remembered, is even the apples that fall off the tree that have been there a while are used in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a juice or, and here we tend to just go down to the grocery store, and, that might change because everything here's up so much.
I eat my apple, I throw the core away, and
yeah,
there might be still lots left there.
Yeah. So almost every house that I was ever invited to, on top of the oven, there would be screens. Okay. And one layer would be chunks of apples, or the apples, and the second layer would be maybe pears, and the third layer was nuts, but they're drying things out, and instead of having a bag of chips, they'll bring out dried apples.
They're probably a lot healthier than some of us.
For sure. Yeah. They know how to eat, and it's festive there. And I think the family unit is stronger there, because we have so many things to do here. Like, we have our phones, and we have the TV, and we're busy. We have the hockey game to go to, and their life is a lot simpler, and in some ways more beautiful, maybe. And the family is still together. They all live in the same house, and
a little more grateful.
And they realize that they don't complain over some of the things. Not all of us, but we complain over, because to them it's a luxury. Right?
Yeah. Like, we complain if we got no Wi-Fi for our phone. Oh,
my
goodness, what am I going to do?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right? They don't worry about that, do
For
they?
sure. Yeah, I've never thought of myself as a complainer, but I've certainly put in perspective. Even when, these drones put me way over budget. I had to buy 2 of them. And I'm fortunate to be in that position, but when they're giving you issues, if that's all you have to complain about
First
that
world
day,
problems, right?
is that my drone gimbal's stuck, like, really, you have to think about it, right?
Yeah,
So there was that, and also went talking about that is the younger generation too. I was really taken back by, I was at a street fire, and the younger kids got up and out of their chairs to say sit down. I think they called me by name. They knew who I was, and sit down by the fire, and here's a blanket. Enjoy the fire, and you know, like it's there's just a genuine camaraderie amongst people, and
the behavior.
Yeah, it reminds me of another story where I get up early every morning, and I love staying in these towns for a week. Something I don't do often, but I have to promise myself that once a month I stay in one spot, because I would get up in the morning and I met this older gentleman and his wife, and they would have breakfast with me right before the place opened. So we're trying to translate and everything, but I'm watching the town come alive, and I'm watching mostly men, because the women, they're not out, they're at home, and the men are busy bringing the produce and the eggs and the bread. Bread is like a big thing. And I'm watching these men day after day greet each other in, there's no way you can act that. These men genuinely love each other. They'll tell you, and they shake hands and they embrace, and there's a house of family. And it's really good to see, because I know we said this before, but in North America we tend, as men, not to show that.
Yeah, we don't say I love you. We don't hug.
Yeah, for sure. And it's probably just from generation to generation, but they're also a community that relies on each other. Yeah. The coffee guy relies on the bread guy, and the bread guy is relying on the place at the coffee and the eggs, and but to see it day after day, right? And
it just works like.
No, I thought it was
amazing.
And
clockwork. Yeah.
I did. I loved watching the town come alive and seeing everyone interact with each other. I thought it was amazing. Yeah.
You've seen, I think, some of my favorite posts that you do. Well, all your posts. I don't know how. I have a hard time keeping up with you, quite honestly. And but I'm jealous, or I guess envious is probably an even better description. Every time I have time to scroll and go, oh, look at that sunset. Look at that mountain view. I mean, you really took your motorcycle into places that you probably shouldn't have.
Maybe, yeah. That's one of the.
I think, was it the Eye of the Sahara, or Eye of or the Sahara Desert?
I'm not sure, but I've definitely been in places where you have to be careful. It's not Lambton County. You know, the more,
like, it's a chore and a half.
Well, that, and it's just, you don't know where the road ends up, right?
Yeah,
like,
or what it turns into,
or what it can. It's happened before,
or isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I was in the Czech Republic, and I'm following this road. Next thing you know, I'm at someone's doorstep. Now, thankfully, I think we had tea and everything worked out. But what if it's not? You know, and so the farther away you get from home, the more you have to be careful where you go.
That kind of, I got thinking about it recently too. What about gas?
I've never had an issue, but I'm also very careful to always keep it above like half, right? And the days.
But you must carry other gas
no,
tanks
I don't.
with you?
No, the only time I've ever carried fuel was the first stop at the Arctic Circle in Canada. I had to go 450 kilometers.
How many clicks do you get out of a tank on your machine?
400 on a good day.
Oh,
380.
Okay, so you can.
So I had to go 450 to Eagle Plains on one road, no gas station. So I actually did water bottles. I had tested them because it was just easier to discard them at the first place. I crumpled them up and put them in the garbage, right? So. Right. But no, I have had no problems with fuel. I had some issues with my credit cards because you're in these countries like Turkey. I called, right? And I made a really big mistake with my Visa. My two main cards, they expired on the same date. So there's a lesson for everyone when you're traveling. And that was my mistake. But I really ran into some trouble with the other cards. And at first I was lucky one card would work and the other wouldn't. But one time I was at a gas station and it didn't work. You know, so I owe them $70 to fill up. Gas is expensive, but back to our story about humans and kindness. You know, they said, well, there's a hotel right there, and I said, you want to keep my spare phone or something like for security? No. So I went over to the hotel and we tried to get it to work, and it didn't. So it took 2 days. I had to FaceTime my father. My father's holding the phone against his iPad, making a connection with North America MasterCard to get my card reset. Right? They saw something that they didn't like. So then they heard my father in the background, and then now they want to cut the phone line off because they feel like my father is, you can't have third party, right? And I'm like, listen, I'm in Turkey. I can't pay my bills. My other, so
Wow.
so a small mistake on my part that turned into, it got a little bit more serious, and it happened 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, it happened 3 times, and so I'm going back with 3 credit
And
cards.
you're not carrying any cash, obviously.
I try to, but I try not to carry very much
Yeah.
too, right? And if
$100 maybe.
$100,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And some of these countries in the Balkans you go through pretty quick, and if you have $100 and you don't spend it, next thing you know, you got a whole bag full of money and change, which I actually put in Ziploc bags now,
Oh, yeah.
and I mark it. And when I go to the airport, I'll hand in 5 Ziploc bags of money from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, wherever I was,
Right.
and they'll give you back the money, right?
Oh, really?
And it's surprising over, say, a month how much change you can get
Yeah.
and how much it can weigh down your bags. Like, really,
Yeah.
it's
No, it's heavy, right?
Yeah.
You must be saving. Are you saving coins from your
Nope.
travels?
No, not at all. And
No.
I try and use my Visa where I can to keep track of my budget somewhat. So I'm way over budget for sure. Yeah, but I think
You had to know you would be.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
probably.
yeah, for sure. I'm over budget, and I know this. I knew I was, but I had my first time in my life. I had my Visa card had a $70 interest charge because I was a couple days late.
Oh, wow.
And I explained to the girl on the phone. Listen, it was that transition time where my cards weren't working, and I actually basically said, like, I want you to remove the interest charge, or I'm going to go somewhere else because I'm a good customer. And she said, yeah, you spent $62,000 this year on your Visa
we
card.
kind of like you.
So that's showing my budget's 50, but
Right.
it's all good. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
Now you're coming into 2023. You're building a van right now, or for
Just ordered a van.
Yeah.
So this is going to be looking forward. Where do I go? So my program is really growing to the point every day I have a story. Even last night, someone from BMW got a hold of me. So where do I go from here? I'm still a young man. I want to do something moving forward. And we should always be learning. We've talked about this. So the van is going to be something I come home and I can drive when I'm here. I don't have to rely on my parents' car or my son's car.
Right.
Eventually it will be somewhat like a van life house, right? Okay. And I'm hoping to speak around to schools, maybe with kids, and my envision of the motorcycle pushing into a gymnasium with a bunch of kids and show them a video, not hanging off a cliff with your hair on fire, but just to show them to get off your phone, don't procrastinate, live your dreams.
What's possible?
Anything's
what's
possible,
right?
The doors are opening, and I'm not doing this to make money off social media, but if my door can open up to travel around the world and speak to people like we are, and I'm doing this trip for me personally, but it's been rewarding to see that I believe people believe in my story now, and I think I'm helping other people look at their own lives. Wow, if he can do that, then maybe we could get kayaks and away we go.
Well, ask my wife, Jennifer, after every conversation I have with you, and I'm always grateful for it. I come home and I've got another idea. That thing I've been saying, I should do that. And we've talked about travel, and I go, see, like, he's doing it. Like, and it is inspiring,
Yeah.
And did you think you would be this impactful on people?
I hoped so.
Yeah.
But social media can be a fickle thing. Right?
Oh.
Right? And
really?
I've seen people, for whatever their own personal beliefs, think that you're into you if you take a picture of yourself, right?
Yes.
But if I don't take a picture of myself or my motorcycle, you're going to see a tree and some landscape for years.
Yeah.
So there's a fine line between telling your story, complaining too much, showing too much adversity, being too happy. Honestly, I know for a fact I
can relate to that.
I've had, I won't say who, but I've had someone say, I just don't believe you're that happy a guy. And I've learned this far into my journey in life, like, if you don't believe it, then there's the door, And,
sorry.
And if you don't like what I'm doing, and if I post too much, then you have the freedom to just take me off social media. But it's so rewarding to have people talk about, like what we just said, and say that you really made us think our life over and where we're going from here. Or I've had people say, I spent 2 months in Turkey riding my motorcycle, and I never saw those areas that you went to, and maybe it made them think that, like, don't just get off the beaten path.
What did I miss?
Yeah, what did you miss? So I'm not doing it for that reason, but it's very rewarding to know that everywhere I go now, everywhere my mom and dad go, grocery store, people seem to relate to the story. So I think I've got my base now in people believing who I am, and I've changed, and they know that I'm, even with girls, people have asked about intimacy, and I've met men and I've met women, and I don't even like putting in a category, but I've met gay men and I've met lesbian women and couples, and they trust me, everywhere I go, if I'm standing beside a nice looking woman or a man, it doesn't mean we've had relationships, you know what I mean? It's
Who's she?
Yeah. And that's social media,
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I concur.
In Poland, I went to a motorcycle show, and I spoke to some people, and I met this guy. And for whatever reason on my social media, our feeds weren't connecting, but he was following me. And in his broken English, he told me, it's humble. I almost feel funny saying this, but I was his hero, and he loved what I did. And he went on and on till you almost get a little bit, not embarrassed, but you need to listen to their side, their story. So. And I was just taken back by how many people knew my story, and I had never heard of them, right? And so this one lady came up, and in Europe they dress, they're not as conservative as here. So this woman was very well dressed, and her boyfriend's standing right there. And so we took a picture, and I had some comments, and I had to privately message these guys and say, listen, just because she's a beautiful woman standing beside a motorcycle doesn't mean there's been anything going on, because man, woman, or anyone of any age, if they're trusting to take me in their home, I'm going to be trustworthy back, and so it all goes back to social media.
I was going to say, there it starts, right?
It really starts. But I hope that my story shows now that I've been humble where I've come from. I'm grateful where I've been, and that it's a story it's more than a motorcycle story. Like we've said this before.
Yeah, I think it started, that was the perception, in the very beginning. Yeah. When we met a few years ago, and it was like, oh, cool, he's going. And I remember talking to other mutual friends in the motorcycle world, and they're like, oh yeah, cool, he's going on a motorcycle trip and everything. And then as you drove away, I do kind of remember thinking, there's more coming.
There's
to this.
More coming,
and boy, has it ever come around full circle, right?
Full circle. And where, like I said, I didn't want sponsors. I mean, I have people that give me product, and I'm thankful. But I tell them if it means that I have obligations, because I have so many obligations now to connect with family, friends.
Right.
Those videos are taking upwards of 10 hours, and if it means I gotta finish the day and give some kind of plug to their product, right? And one company, I love their pants, but I don't like their coat, and I tell them I don't like your coat, so thank you for the pants. But if it means I'm sponsored. But now doors are opening now where I can see this going into motorcycle shows, and because when I'm speaking,
you've got some leverage now.
Yeah, and I knew that you need a little bit of a resume. You can't go around the world telling people about stories because you traveled to Grand Bend and back, right. So, and I'm also learning from people, and I'm getting good at what I do too. Right now, when I go to these motorcycle shows, I used to be a sponge taking information in. And now I'm starting to turn into, confidently, that I'm one of those guys people are asking my advice too, because
they won't listen to you.
I've seen a lot and done a lot.
Be a sponge to you.
I've learned a lot of things, right? I mean, we're all different, but we all have our way of doing things. But the more you travel, it definitely, and I've said this before too, I thought my eyes were open when I left, but they keep opening and opening and opening, and it's really good.
You really have, I guess, invaluable content,
Yep. Yeah.
It's become, let's talk about the content that you posted. You must have, I've always looked at and thought, look at the beautiful mountains and the valley, all this stuff. And I thought, gosh, I wouldn't know what to pick to post, because there's no way you could post it all. I'm sure you have a whole other gallery of stuff.
Yeah.
But do you save that stuff that you don't post, or do you just delete it because you need the space?
I delete most of the clips, and I keep the video that I made, because I figure if all the other videos never made the 3-4 minute video, that it's not worth keeping. But in the new year, I'm going to start keeping things because things are starting to open up. They might be useful later.
Okay.
But no, I save them in the iCloud, and I save them on, I have 3 phones. One phone is specifically for just the videos. So when I'm finished, so there's 107 videos on there, I think, right now. But no, I've been just getting rid of the old clips. But I've been reusing some. But for me, it's as it started out is instead of just a picture album, mine's a video album, right? And I've tried to change more and more, and sometimes get influenced by people that tell you should do this or this, and I'll try it. But I've always gone back to the song, and it moves me. The songs, like it moves you to tears, it moves you to emotions.
And you really spend time, I know, on picking the right music.
I do
for those videos.
Every night I go to bed, I have this number 20. I'm going to listen to 20 songs, right? Okay. And then if I find one I like, I get the license through my program, and then often during the day I'll listen to the song 10 times over again in my helmet as I'm going, and you'll find a break in the song and think, oh, that's where the drone should be going up, or that's where a lot of songs. My favorite is they start slow and you start cinematic and then boom. Right?
I like that too.
Yeah, and you need to songs have meanings for everybody, right? Some are even misinterpreted what I meant to say. One of the last ones, and I knew it was a little there wasn't controversy, but it was about me and my dreams, and maybe someday, settling down and falling in love. I had just met this couple, and this song, I really liked the song. But after meeting the couple, it didn't mean I want to settle down tomorrow. I just had a memory that said, or a thought that said, I don't always want to travel alone, right? I don't always want to be alone.
Boy, she's really going to have to keep up.
Yeah, well, it won't always be like this. I get asked that too. There's no way I can sustain this kind of lifestyle on a motorcycle for a long time. Right. Like, trust me, it's a lot harder than I let on. Right? Yeah. Every day is a challenge and everything. So
pictures don't always show the challenge, right?
No, they can show more beauty than it is sometimes, and they can also show like not the harder side, right? Which I just have chose not in some cases to explain all those stories.
We're seeing the results though, and the results have been
not
amazing is the word, but it's been a powerful experience.
Yeah, and even when I say like I don't show the adversity side, like I haven't had anything really big. Like I really haven't. Even my crash in Spain, I fell over and down the hill, and it could have been so much worse. Yeah, I hurt my ribs. Yeah, I couldn't sleep for a month almost. Yeah, my ankle hurt, couldn't walk barely, but it could a little bit more of a roll, I would have lost the bike. And then that crash made me think, you need to be careful. You're not 25, right?
Right.
And
nothing. Does that ego get in the way sometimes?
I'd like to think not. I honestly think I am really good at knowing what I can and can't do. Yeah. Right? I've never been stranded. I was stranded once in Petrolia 4 years ago, and it was a simple puddle I got stuck in, and I think I could have got out, but my nephew said he'd be there in 45 minutes. Right?
Right.
So why get on your knees? So I find that's as much fun as even the videography some days on a big bike that weighs 370 kilograms, right? Yeah. That would probably shock you how light it feels riding it. But if you get in trouble, I can't walk it up a trail, But I love the day in Transalpina it was a full day of picking and choosing your rut. Like, you make these decisions. I'm not a fast rider. I really am a creeper. First gear, but you're 15 kilometers an hour, but you're making decisions all day long, stick, stone, rock. And that's why I liked racing so much, because your mind is going 1,000 times a minute processing everything. Well, yeah, that rut starts great, and it makes the first part of the rut's easy, but it leads to the puddle. The other one starts off rougher, and yes, there's some whatever, but it goes around.
It's a lot of decisions.
You have to make your decision, and I find it fun. I find it a challenge, and during the day, at some point, you feel like a motocrosser. Yeah. You feel like a cross-country adventurer, and it's just all. I think about that decision making, and I think the other thing that it might teach me that I don't always have a lot of is patience. You've got to have a lot of patience. You have to have a lot of patience, and when you travel alone, and I'm not downplaying group adventures, but it is an entirely different experience.
Absolutely.
Like even, the
It's
series
just
Long
you.
Way Down and Around and everything.
Do you talk to your motorcycle? I've always wanted to
Yeah,
know.
I talk to myself. Yeah, and I've been proud of myself because I know 5 years ago I would have taken that risk. I've got a lot better, right?
Yeah.
But when you're alone and it's only you have to make the right decisions. And when I go to places, I'm not going to die, but I could really get in trouble and stranded and have a long walk out. I knew Transalpina was 90 kilometers from here to here, and there's no one, right? And the biggest struggle that day was it was -5, so some of the water that's flowing naturally down the trails is frozen, and you've got ice, and the puddles were frozen enough that if you went on them, you'd break through. Once you break through, the sheet of ice is below you, and the tire spinning, right? So it's just a constant day of concentrating. But I like that, and you either thrive off it or you don't. And some, I shouldn't say some people, but if you don't think of that stuff, you can get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, sure.
Like even at an intersection, my mind's going left car, right car. This guy, I'm getting ready for if anything happens. I'm ready to go. If I'm on a highway, which I don't travel a lot like a freeway, I'm counting cars behind me. I'm looking at my rearview mirror and going, okay, green van, blue van, 2 cars, white car, orange car. So I know when the orange car passes me, there's a break. Because sometimes the traffic there is so fast. Like, it's one of my biggest fears. The noise of a car going by me on those freeways over there. I'm going 110, 115. They're going 160 to 200, right? And that noise. And I've never had a moment where I pulled out and went, that was close. But I've had moments of, I'm getting ready to pull out. And boom, right? That noise. It just seems like death to me, to be honest. But it's a constant checking your mirror and counting cars, and because one little mistake in a foreign country, just if you pull out in a car in the city and you break a lever off, you're going to be a while before you get it, right? And so I like it. I find it's the challenge. Yeah.
You can tell by the smile on your face.
Yeah, that's
Kris,
true.
And boy, we just don't have enough time to tell the whole story. But following along on Instagram is where a lot of your posts are. KMH Adventures.
Yeah. Well,
you've got the YouTube channel that's grown tremendously.
Yeah.
As well.
I'm hiring a girl to look after things, and I've told her straight out that I won't be the one and never will stand there and say, please subscribe and like. People know if they want to watch it, fine. But there's an opportunity to grow it here, and I'm going to get some kind of charity involved, right? Yeah. But the videos are going to change a bit because I'm headed to Africa, where drones are very much forbidden in many places.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. So I've got 2 brand new drones being rushed from DJI to go to Morocco, and you can't.
Oh, which one did you get?
The 3. So I have 2 3s. Yeah. We never had time to tell that story, but I've had nothing but issues. But the drone does 9 things out of 10 better than my old drone. Unfortunately, the one thing it doesn't do as good is follow a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And I believe it's because of safety. They won't really admit it, but this drone will follow me. You saw it'll follow me through caves and rocks. It'll follow me through the woods and go in and around trees. If I want to drone you on the other side of a tree, I'd go right at the tree, let the drone take over, go around the tree. It's that much smoother. But I've had a lot of issues, and right now one is working. But I sent them both back, but I'm going to Morocco, and it's very clear that you cannot have a drone in Morocco. And same with Turkey. I realized I researched in Turkey, but one morning I was droning across town. There was a film crew in town doing some soap opera.
Okay.
And they saw me, right? And they go on their apps and they said, that's a rogue drone, right? Not that they think war drone, but some people do, right?
Yeah.
I've been accused of Russian one time in Portugal.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I was walking in town and the guy walks up to me and says, I'm guessing you're the guy. You just look like, because I had my bag and my drone, I just look like a guy that might have a drone, right? in Turkey. And he said, listen, we knew you were a rogue drone and you realized you can't drone. So I showed him the website I was on. He goes, yeah, check it out though, 1999 or something. I don't know what it was. But so you have to be very careful in these countries. And I don't like droning around people because there is something about a drone. People they think you're watching them, right?
Yeah, I've run into that.
And those countries over there right now that are close to Ukraine, right?
They're really protective.
They're really protective. And even getting a drone in Europe right now, the Mavic 3, I didn't say this on social media. I don't want to sound selfish, but it was tough to get because most of them go to the war. They're all going to the war. And you can imagine the old days, they made those 2 poor guys that had to go over the mountain and see what's going on. Like now you just send your drone.
Right. Right.
So, but anyways, so I'm going to have to come up with creative ways to make the videos without droning. And people really want to know a lot more, I think, about the technology behind my program and just the helmet. Just my coat alone has 18 zippers, you know, with venting and technology.
Wow.
and your helmet. And people don't realize when it's raining, I'm listening to the radio satellite, and, you know, the text message comes in on my screen, and I don't take many calls. I'll pull over, but I can talk on the phone through my hand, you know, and change the mode and anti-lock brakes and 16 different modes.
Wow.
Inside 4 different modes. When it's raining, it automatically switches to rain, and when I pull up to a stop sign on a hill, the brakes come on automatic. Like, there's so much technology going
That's
on.
amazing.
So I want to start explaining that, and
Yeah, the people will enjoy that.
yeah, who knows? So
Awesome.
truth is, there's no drones allowed, so I have to do something, right?
Be creative.
And it's unfortunate because I love doing the drones so much. It's not work. It's just, it's like my little friend that's with me and gives me a real purpose.
I fly my drone, and it's like I'm escaping for a while. And
Me
I'm just
too.
flying around here, right? You know, but it's still
so
like
I'm the same. Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
So
Kris, I so wish we had more
yeah,
time.
well,
We're just going to have to do it again.
Yeah, we have to figure out something on the road. But I'm going to be home a lot. I got a lot of things going on, exciting with my family, and
Good.
It's no secret. My son's getting married. Might be becoming a grandfather soon.
Oh,
It's not
wow,
a secret.
okay.
They're stag and doe. So between now and July, I'm probably going to be home 3 times.
Yeah.
And I've decided, whatever the cost, you can't replace that stuff, right?
No,
So
you got to have that.
there's a 4 or 5 hour party in town for their stag and doe, and I don't want to miss it. So I'll be back.
All right.
Yeah, but I'm certainly going
Maybe we'll show up.
to Africa next, and I know it's going to be one of the biggest challenges of my life. So I'm looking forward to it.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I got to tell you, I'm so grateful for our friendship.
Yeah, me too.
And,
I've enjoyed it.
We could sit here for hours more.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I got time constraints, but I'll tell you, this is the most comfortable interview I've ever had to
certainly.
do. And nice and easy, because I just go, oh yeah, that's great. Because
Well,
that's a great story.
Yeah,
So you can follow along Kris Hall online, KMH Adventures on Instagram.
KDH, yeah, KDH.
Or KDH, sorry.
Yeah,
and find him on YouTube as well. We'll share all the links. Thanks again, Kris.
Yeah,
And
thank you. There's exciting things coming, I think. I can't say too much, but I think I'm going to get more and more support from some people who like the program, and I'm excited to share next year. So it's going to be good.
Can't wait to see
Yeah,
that.
good.
Thanks for watching,
All right.
everybody.
See you later.
Kris, I just I can't thank him enough for coming into my home, and we just did, we've been wanting to do one-on-one like that. You know, it's a lot of times there's a remote. Maybe I should do that a little bit more. What do you think? I really enjoyed the intimate conversation that we had with Kris, and there's so much more he wanted to get to, but we just couldn't. So we are planning to do something regular in the future. We've been talking about that while he's away. Unfortunately, a lot of times where he's at, there's no internet. Can you imagine? So, but we're going to figure something out anyway, and then we'll keep in touch with Kris. And he is super busy when he's home. Everybody wants to see him, and he's got a lot of cool things in the works, as he alluded to there in that interview. But glad to see you home safe and sound, and we're looking forward to the next part of the trip. And thanks to all of you once again. Well, of course, thanks to my super sponsors for making the show possible here, and because you all come here and watch. That helps me be here every week. Don't forget to click the share button. You know, the like button's wonderful, but the share button is the most important because it shares the message of all the guests that I have here every week on the show, and I want to share their story, their message. So please take a moment and click the share button. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to click the subscribe and the bell icon so you get notified of all the other videos that I post regularly. But for now, you know the routine, right? That's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. I will see you next time right here on the show. Bye for now.